Let me address the recent events in Charlotte, North Carolina. The recent death of Keith Lamont Scott in Charlotte is currently under local investigation. We are, of course, aware of the tragic events that resulted in his death, and the Department of Justice and the FBI are currently monitoring that matter. Now, for the second day in a row, protests in response to Mr. Scott's death took place in Charlotte last night, and for the second day in a row, those protests were marred by violence, this time leaving one person on life support and several individuals injured. An awful reminder that violence often only begets violence. Now, the details of what happened last night are still under review by local authorities, but today, the Department of Justice is sending 4 members of our Community Relations Service to Charlotte. Our Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services has also offered technical assistance and support for crowd mediation to local police. And the local FBI office stands ready to assist local law enforcement as well. But let me also speak to the people of the state of North Carolina, a beautiful state, a great state, and my home state. I know that these are difficult times, and I know that the events of recent days are painfully unclear and they call out for answers. But I also know that the answer will not be found in the violence of recent days. Let us all seek a peaceful way forward. Now, most of the demonstrators gathered last night were exercising their constitutional and protected right to peaceful protest in order to raise issues and to create change. We need your voice. We need your passion. We need your commitment. But I urge those responsible for bringing violence to these demonstrations to stop, because you're drowning out the voices of commitment and change, and you're ushering in more tragedy and grief in our communities. Now, the tragic events in Charlotte and in Tulsa, Oklahoma earlier this week once again have underscored the divisions that persist between law enforcement officers and the communities that we serve, particularly communities of color. And one of my top priorities as Attorney General has been to do everything in my power to help heal those divides, and the Department of Justice will continue working tirelessly to protect the rights of all Americans, to give law enforcement the resources they need to do their jobs safely and fairly, to open dialogue, to promote reconciliation, and to reduce violence of all kinds in this country. But as we've seen in recent months, despite these efforts and despite the efforts of many others across the country, we have come together with thoughts and prayers far too many times for a victim of violence, civilians and law enforcement officers alike. And too many times we've allowed ourselves to be pulled down the easy path of blame and accusation rather than the harder path of empathy and understanding. Let us choose that path. Let us work together to ensure that all Americans have both a voice and value in this great country of ours. And let me reaffirm my full commitment and the full commitment of this Department of Justice to advancing that effort. And to those who are exercising that most fundamental of our freedoms, we hear your voices and we feel your pain. To all the law enforcement officers who continue to risk their lives day in and day out to keep us safe and to protect those essential freedoms, I extend my deepest thanks and support. But finally, I urge all Americans to ask themselves what they can do to contribute to the more peaceful, the more perfect, and the more just union that is our shared heritage, that is our mutual responsibility, and that is our common goal.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.